they can be able to follow through, or if they don't join, they can also be able to see what we have done. So just to have a recap of what we did last week is to first of all have an understanding of what is meant by information, what is meant by data, and how they normally interlink, because there is always a connection between information and data. When we talk about information and data, one creates the other, and it is out of that hierarchy or out of that relationship where we create the information hierarchy. So kindly, I request somebody has their mic on. Let me just mute it. Okay. So like I was saying, it is out of the relationship between data and information. There we normally get the hierarchy of information, which is required in an organization. And like we said last week, the relationship between, or the reason why we are studying management information system is because we need to manage this information from the managerial processes we know, and at the same time, this information becomes an asset. In today's organizations, information is an asset. It helps managers to be able to analyze the way business is doing and be able to make decisions quickly and on time. We even saw decisions which are made on real time, like whenever things are happening and you want to make some adjustments, you can make, because you're already collecting information on what is happening in that real time. So that is why we feel it is important. That is why we are studying management information systems, so that we can be able to understand how to make decisions as quickly as possible, and how this information relates with data, as well as all the hierarchy which is required in our understanding. So normally we describe data as those unprocessed facts and figures, or what we were calling raw facts. When you go to the road and you start counting the number of vehicles passing there in like 1 hour, when you finish and you say maybe there are like 20 cars, then you have already collected, that is facts. When you start categorizing, you're already creating meaning into that data, and it is becoming information. So that is why we are saying plain data that is collected as facts cannot help in decision making. But the moment you process this data, when you are trying to organize it, you're trying to structure it, you're trying to interpret it to create information or to create meaning into it, then it becomes important for decision making. So as data is being defined as a group of random symbols in the form of text, images, voice representing quantities, and action and objects, information is the interpreted data, or data that has been organized, data that has been structured, and data that has been processed. And when we talk about data that has been processed, we are talking about data that has been transformed. And by this transformation, we talk of things like manipulation of the data, so that it creates meaning, or it has an understanding. When somebody looks at that data, once it has been manipulated, either by adding, and when we are talking about manipulation, we are talking of adding, subtracting, we are talking of sorting, we are talking of something like listing, we are talking something like categorizing, multiplying, and so many other manipulations you can perform on the data. The moment you are doing these manipulations, you are trying to process that data. And when you are processing this data, we are saying that you are creating meaning into it. So that is why we normally say information, according to Davis and Oslon, information is data that has been processed into a form that is meaningful to the recipient and is of real or perceived value. If today you got some information that somebody, the president is coming tomorrow to Machakos, for example, it might have some benefit to you, either real or perceived. By perceiving that, since this person is coming and he is of importance, maybe some roads will be tarmac or something like that. It may not be a direct benefit, but it has some other perceived benefits. There is also the real benefit, like when you go and win something or you buy something of value to you, then that becomes like it has direct value. So we are saying this information is meaningful to the user or to the recipient of the information, and it may have real or perceived value. So that is what we normally mean by information. So we normally get data, and this data is normally processed. Once it has been processed, it creates information. And we have said what information processing does. Then, out of the information, we normally, and this is what we are calling the information hierarchy, something there, which you need to take note of, that data is the raw material of information, like the raw facts. Once they have been processed, they create information, which we are saying it is data, and it is data which is organized or interpreted in some way or has been processed in some way so that it creates meaning to someone and it is presented by another person. After that, we go to the next level, which we normally call knowledge. When we talk of knowledge, we say this is information that is read, heard, or seen and understood. Now, basically what we mean by that, or information that has been read, heard, or is seen and understood, it means like this. This is information which has been combined with some experience. So that you can have knowledge, you need to have a know-how. And you create a know-how out of doing something over and over. If you can say, I'm an experienced programmer, or I'm an experienced maybe marketer, it means that you have marketed a product over some time until you have the know-how or the experience of marketing. So when you find some information about marketing, like digital marketing, you already know how you are going to combine this marketing knowledge you have with this new information that you are getting about digital marketing, and it has value. That is why we are saying information that you have read, information that you have heard, information that you have seen, and you have understood it, meaning that you can actionize it, or you can create product from it, you can create something meaningful out of it, then it becomes knowledge. And that is the higher level after you have the information. So that is what knowledge is. Knowledge is information which is combined with know-how or experience so that it can create a product or it can create something meaningful. If you are creating a product for a client after you have marketed or after you have created it out of your experience of marketing, and out of your experience of marketing, maybe you know this product is suitable for this region, or this product is suitable for this age group. With that understanding, then you can be able to combine it with the digital marketing skill or digital marketing information and be able now to create a product that can sell. And that is what we call knowledge. Then, after this knowledge has been used for some time, it creates what we call wisdom. Now, when we are talking about wisdom, it is a distilled and integrated knowledge and understanding. Distilled and integrated knowledge as well as understanding. What do we mean by this? Wisdom, it comes from the failures you have had. Maybe one day you thought that marketing and digital marketing can be combined and we can be able to sell this product. And then you tried it and you failed. When you have failed or you have succeeded, you have created wisdom out of it. Wisdom is the one which will tell you, even if I combine these three techniques, they will not give me anything. So I don't need to try it because I already know that it is not going to do anything. So that is what becomes wisdom. That is why we normally say old people have wisdom because they have gone through life. That is the same way, if a person has been in some industry for long, they have some wisdom of knowing what can work, what cannot work. So from this point where we started with data, that was just the raw facts. These raw facts were processed so that they can create meaning to help in decision making. And then when you are able to make a decision, and then you combine that decision with some know-how, you have created knowledge. And it is something like a formula you can write down for somebody else to follow. But then over time, you have come through different experiences. Maybe during Christmas, you realize this strategy is not working. Maybe during this period of the year, this other strategy can work, this other one cannot work. And out of that, you have gained wisdom which can help you in making decisions. So that is what we call the information hierarchy, being able to categorize or to organize this information in such a way that over time you have created a mountain of understanding that can be able to combine with knowledge and help you to make better decisions. So that is what we are talking about there. So this information continuum is the one which is formed out of the hierarchy of information. And this is how it normally goes. We normally start with data, which we are calling the fact. Once we have the data or the series of that data, then information is created out of it, or an understanding that can be able to help us to make a decision. Now, that understanding continues to become what we call business intelligence. So business intelligence is a combination of knowledge and wisdom, which now can be able to help an organization in creating a policy or in making decisions. That is why we are saying business intelligence is information management pertaining to an organization's policy or decision making, particularly which is tied to strategic or operational objectives. Now, at the end of the day, like we said, there has to be a goal which an organization wants to accomplish, or there is an operational objective. When you are creating a product or you are creating a strategy, like let's say an organization like Safaricom, it created a product they are calling M-Pesa. This product is based on technology. It is based on information, communication, and technology. The objective was to ensure that people are able to send money from one person to another. So when they were coming up with the strategy, or when they were coming up with the objective of creating this product, they were thinking about the customer. Then they went ahead due to the way they collected data, and they realized that we can also create another product we are calling Lipa na M-Pesa, whereby you can be able to buy goods and services using your mobile phone. You pay through your mobile phone. So this is what we are calling business intelligence. Business intelligence is from that data which has been collected, either as feedback from clients, either as market intelligence or market research. You go and find out from the customers, what exactly do they want? When you understand what they want, then you go back to your organization, you try to create a product that is going to work for them. And that is what we are calling business intelligence. So it is information management pertaining to an organization's policy or decision making. And for this decision to create M-Pesa, Lipa na M-Pesa, M-Shwari, it is tied to a strategic or an operational objective. So since Safaricom is a profit-making entity, Their main objective is that as we serve you with this product, as we try to solve your problem of sending money, we are going to charge you a small fee. And that is what we are calling the profit-making objective of Safaricom in creating such products. So I hope there we are understanding one another. So how do they collect this data? These organizations which try to collect this data so that they can use it to process information and out of that be able to perform business intelligence, they can collect data using surveys. Surveys can be done either by using a questionnaire or by using interviews. So here we can be able to prepare several. We can use questionnaires, interviews, customer feedback. What else can we use? We can also use existing literature. So all of these are methods which can fall under surveys, whereby you can go collect data, either a primary source, where we are talking of primary source, is like a questionnaire, is like an interview, is like a customer feedback. Nowadays, getting customer feedback, like we will see, customer relationship management has become very easy, whereby we can be able to interact with customers by use of social media. Just by going to Facebook, people are able to connect with companies by going to Twitter and such. So every other organization has a social media page, because through social media, you're able to interact directly with your consumers and you can be able to get information directly from them. We are also talking about existing literature, and when we are talking about existing literature, is that data which has already been previously collected. So you don't need to go and collect new data, you can already work with that. If your competitors done that, for example, Safaricom has already done collection of data regarding how M-Pesa should work. So if it is a competitor like Airtel, Airtel doesn't need to go to the market. They just need to depend on the model that Safaricom has created, and they can create a similar product, only that it is like an alternative. If you don't feel like using Safaricom, you can use Airtel, something of that sort. So that is what we mean by existing literature. We are also talking about secondary sources of data or archival data, whereby we are talking of records which have already been in existence in an organization. We are talking of magazines which they already, like an industry, let's say it is the banking industry. They normally create or they produce the reports, end of year reports, depending on the industry performance. And they have a magazine which can be able to tell. We have the tourism magazines which can be able to tell. We have company websites. If you go to every other company, you'll find that they have a lot of data which they have posted there. So instead of you going to collect it from the field directly, you can just get it from a company website. If it is like end of year sales or revenues for the end of the year, if you go to like these companies which are listed in the Nairobi stock market, this is the information you can collect there quickly. So those are other sources of data you can get. Other sources include objective measures or texts. You can go and perform experiments outside there, like you want to roll out a new product. So instead of rolling out to everybody, you can select a group of individuals or potential consumers and try it out with them. If you see it is working, that will have given you some data to tell whether it is working or not. And from there, you can be able to make a decision whether to continue rolling out the product or you stop rolling out the product altogether because of the feedback that you are getting from your market or from your target market. So if you conduct that test on a subject, then data is easily collected. Then we also have interviews, and here we are talking about now a system analyst who goes to follow a rigid procedure. Now forget the interviews whereby you have a list of questions. Here, we are looking about analysts who go to some experts, field experts, and here you are having preconceived questions which are going to help in gathering some specific data. So if it is like creation of a new information system, creation of a new product, it is easy to carry about these specialized interviews. So those are the sources of data which can be used in an organization. So let us look at the classification of information. I hope there is no question so far. If you have a question, you can let me know as we move on. So when we are talking about sources of classification of information, information can be classified in a number of ways. So it can be classified by the characteristics it has, or by the application where it is normally used, or by the level of management where it is being used. So those are the different characteristics or classifications of information. So when we are talking about classification by characteristic, there can be information which is for action or not for action. Yes, there is information which requires you to make some action. There is some other information which doesn't need you to make an action. Think of the supermarket in the town here. After every 1 hour, for example, there will be some information which is collected, maybe sales. How much have you sold at the supermarket? The sales have reached like 1 million. So that requires the manager to go through the counters, collecting the money so that it can be taken to the bank. So that information which has been collected at that point is for action. Compare that with some other information which is being passed by the customer service person telling somebody that we are offering this, we are offering that on sale. That is information which is not for action. It is just informing customers who are in the supermarket that there are items for sale. So you can have those two types of information. One is for requires some action. Another information doesn't require any action. It is just telling you that something is happening or there is this and that which is going on. Then we have the other category whereby we have information that is recurring and some other information which doesn't recur. When we are talking about recurring information, is information that keeps on happening over and over, like it keeps on being updated. That same example of money, maybe after another 1 hour, the manager will check again to collect information and find that sales have already reached again 1 million. So they will need now to go again and collect that money again. So that is recurring information. At the end of the day, they will need to check how much items have been sold, which others need to be restocked, and by that, that keeps on recurring every other day. Then there is another information which doesn't recur. It happens once and that is it. So there are those two types of information. Then there is internal and external information. Internal information is that which is generated within the organization and it is consumed within the organization. We talked about information produced by a management information system, the middle level systems. That information is normally collected from within the organization, either from the operational level or from the strategic level of the organization. So that kind of information doesn't need, that information is internal, doesn't need to come from outside the organization. Compare that with external information, like at the operational level, there is information about sales. How much are you selling? Or sales information, like when somebody buys items, then that money which is being recorded is coming from a customer who is coming from external to the organization, and there is information which is going outside. The receipt which the customer is going to get is going external to the organization. So information which is coming from outside the organization is the one which we are calling external information. Then we come to the second category, whereby we have information being classified by its application. And here we have information which is for planning. Like for example, at the end of the day, when the manager of the supermarket is trying to look at information about sales, maybe how much milk has been sold and how do we get other milk back, or how do we restock. So when you are looking at that information, you're just trying to look at how much, how many maybe packets of milk do you need to buy, how many crates of bread do you need to buy. So that is something you need to plan about so that you can order for more. That becomes planning information. There is also control information, like the money we are talking about being sent to the bank because it will be used for buying more stock. We are also talking about information that you need to know who has reported to work today so that you can be able to know how you are going to allocate them to different departments, to different areas of the organization. So that becomes control information. Then there is knowledge information, which is supposed to give you an understanding of what is happening. So planning information and control information can also become knowledge information for the manager in order for them to know what is happening, in order for them to make any decision regarding that. Then the third classification is information, whereby information is organized by management hierarchy. That is what we call supervisory level information. Like when we are talking about supervisor level information, this is the information at the transaction level. So you can have control information also being supervisor level information, because it is like a line manager trying to know how many people have reported to work today so that they can know how they are going to allocate them to the different production lines. Then we have middle level manager, middle level information. And this middle level information, like we said, it is based on weekly, monthly, so that it can be able to tell. If so many people have been having absenteeism, you can decide to hire more people. You can decide to maybe to give them some off time so that they can now be rejuvenated. And that is middle level management, whereby you have collected that information from data within the supervisory level. Somebody tells me that they can't hear. Daniel, are you able to hear me? Or anybody who is having a challenge hearing me? Ross, can you hear me? Branton, Kinywa, Naomi, are you able to hear me? Kindly let me know if you can hear me, or some technical issue, we resolve it. We can hear you. Okay, so if you can hear me, I don't know, maybe Daniel, you need to check your system. Maybe it has a challenge. Yes. Thank you for confirming that. So let us continue. Okay, I can see people can hear me. Yes. Okay, thank you. So we were talking about the classification of information in terms of management hierarchy, and we were looking at middle level. Then we come to top level information. And when we are looking at top level information, this is information which is found at the strategic level of the organization. This is information which is supposed to be used for planning, long-term planning, and creating strategies for the organization to be able to make profits or to be beneficial. That is why it is called top level information. Then now, after we have understood that organization or classification, this information which is used for decision making is normally categorized in 3 types. We have what we call the strategic information, and strategic information is normally used for long-term planning in the organization. When we talk about long-term planning in the organization, what exactly do we mean? These are like plans for 2 years, 5 years, or 10 years in terms of new products which need to be created by the organization, maybe new departments which need to be created, diversification of the business, or creation of new business models. So these are long-term plans which are supposed to help the organization be able to work through the industry or the challenges it is facing in the industry. Then we also have another category of information which we call tactical information. When we talk about tactical information, we refer to the information that is needed for trying to control the organization or trying to manage how the organization is run. Think of budgeting, quality control, service level. So those are the things we are looking at when we are talking about controlling the information or having technical or tactical information which is helping you to run the organization so that it doesn't veer off from its track. You need to budget so that you know what to spend, so that profits can be found. You need also to be able to control the service level agreements you have, whether with your clients, with your employees, and all of that. Quality control, the quality of the products you are having or the services that you are giving to your customers. All of this requires tactical information. And then we also have the operational information. And when we are talking about operational information, it is the information that is required for day-to-day running of the organization. This is the information that is required for operational tasks. Maybe when you are selling an item, what are the steps you take to sell this item? When you are creating a service or you're selling a service to the customer, what are the steps you take? Like, for example, in an hotel, when a customer gets there, how are you supposed to serve them? Somebody will come to their table, they will greet them, they will give them the menu so that they can check in the menu what they need. Once they make the order, the service person will go and give the order to the kitchen and something of that sort. So that is operational information. If it is a bank, when a customer walks in, you need to know they need to go to the teller where they will get their service card so that when time comes, they will be able to be called that tag and they can go to the specific counter where they need to be served. So when we are looking at operational information, that is what we mean. Information that is for day-to-day running of the organization. If it is like in production, we are talking about machine and shift specific jobs. How do you operate this machine? Or how does this shift work? And that is what we mean. Then classification of information regarding application, we had already looked at that, where we are looking at planning information, either control information, knowledge information, organizational information, functional information, and then database information. Let me talk about briefly database information. A database is normally, we will look at it, and we normally define a database. A database is that collection of information which is already organized in according to a certain criteria. So a database will always create maybe tables, and these tables will have columns and rows, and those columns and rows will represent the items and their attributes, and that is how those items or the data regarding those items will be organized, either by the type of the item and its attributes. So when we are talking about a database, is that construction of a depository whereby you can store data according to a certain kind of structure. So that is why we call it database information. It requires an expert to be able to create the database and organize information according to that structure. So I hope up to there we are all together. Let us now carry on to the quality of information. We had touched a little bit on it in terms of quality. And when we are talking about quality, we are saying quality is a value that would vary according to the users and uses of that information. The reason why we have put this statement there is because sometimes what is of quality to one person is not of quality to the next person. So information quality varies in terms of what is the use of this information and who is the user of this information. That is why the value, the quality of information keeps on varying. So when we are looking at information quality, according to Wang and Strong, I will give you these references. There are several dimensions of information quality. The first dimension is what we call the intrinsic dimension. And when we are looking at the intrinsic, we are looking at the information itself. That is why we are looking like intrinsic is something which is within. How is the information by itself? Is it accurate? So those are the attributes we look at when we are looking at the intrinsic dimension of information quality. We are looking at things like accuracy, objectivity, believability, and reputation. Is the information accurate? Can it be trusted? When we are talking about believability, from the past, does it have good reputation? When you are talking about reputation, is like if it is a person who has been known to lie or to give wrong information, even when they are speaking the truth, their reputation is always under the microscope to be checked again and again. So we are looking at the reputation of the information system which is giving that information. Like when we are looking at news, when news is coming to us, you normally hear about the fake news which are being spread on the social media pages, so that you can't believe that news 100%. That is the intrinsic perspective of the information. Then we also have contextual perspective of information. When we are looking at the context of the information, we are looking at how relevant that information is, what value it is adding, because you might have information, yes, it is relevant, but it doesn't add value. The reason why we are saying it doesn't add value is because maybe you already knew about it, or even if you know about it, it may not make a lot of difference, because maybe what it needed to give you information about has already passed. That is why we were talking about the timeliness of information. If it comes too early, it may not be of use. If it comes too late, then its use is already done. So that is why we are talking about value adding. And then timeliness, like we are saying, if it comes too early, not of use. If it comes too late, not of use as well. So you need to access that information the time that you need to access it. Then there is also the aspect of completeness. Incomplete information is more dangerous than having no information at all. Because if it is incomplete, it may lead you to make the wrong decision. And then the amount of information you are getting. You might get information, yes, it is complete, but it is not enough to enable you to make a decision. Then we look at the representation. And when we are looking at the representation of information, we are looking at the factor of what format are you presenting this information, or how are you formatting this information or organizing it to be presented to the user. So can the user interpret? That is why we are talking about interpretability. Can the user interpret the information? You might give information and then it is in a language that somebody cannot understand. If it cannot be understood, then it is a problem. The format with which you are giving, maybe it is not following a certain order. So if the information is not ordered properly, then it also becomes a challenge. Coherence. Does it make meaning or does it flow? That is what we mean by coherence. Compatibility. The medium through which you're presenting this information is of importance. Last week I was talking about presenting information. Maybe you are sending a message on WhatsApp, and the person you are sending that message to doesn't have a phone that has WhatsApp. He uses a mulika mwizi. So as much as that information is very important, since the medium is not compatible, they will not be able to get the information. So it is of no use in terms of representation. Then the other perspective of information quality is about accessibility. How accessible is the information? Can I get it when I need it? That is always the question regarding accessibility. If I cannot get it when I need it, then there is a problem there. Also, access security. And here we are looking at something we normally call confidentiality. Is it only me, or can this information be only accessed by those who are allowed to access it, or is it accessible to just everybody? Because if the information is out there, it is no longer so much important. It is an open secret. Everybody knows about it. Organizations will benefit from information that has been specified, or it is only of value to them if it is them who have it. If now you already know, or everybody knows that a particular product, this is how it works, then there is no aspect of proprietary ownership, meaning that anybody can create that product and competition will be very high. So with that, it becomes a problem. So those are the 4 dimensions which we look at when we are looking at information quality. So when we have looked at those 4 dimensions, several others, even those we looked at last week, they tried to come up with some essential characteristic features. For you to say that this information is of quality, then it needs to be reliable, meaning that you can verify that information and you can depend on it. That is why we can say it is reliable. Even when you say that this person is reliable, it is a person you can trust, and that comes from the aspect of verifying. And since you can trust them, then you can depend on them. You know, when you tell them something, they will not tell anybody. Or when you ask them for some help, they will be able to help. That is what we mean by reliability. So an information system that produces information that is reliable, then it is of quality. Another characteristic feature of information quality is timeliness. It must be current, or it is in the present. That makes it very important. Relevance is also a very important information quality, meaning that apart from it being current, it is also valid. And when you are using it, it reduces uncertainties, because we are using this information for us to be able to make decisions. So it should not confuse you more. It should remove those confusions and give you a direct solution so that you can be able to make decisions. Accuracy is another quality characteristic of information, whereby it needs to be free of errors and mistakes. It also needs to be true, and it should not be deceptive, like you get information and it wasn't what you thought. Another characteristic of quality information is sufficiency, meaning that it is of adequate quantity so that it can be the basis of the decisions you are going to make. It also needs to be unambiguous, meaning that it has been expressed in clear terms. When it is presented, it needs to be comprehensive. It doesn't leave you with more questions. That is what we mean by information being unambiguous. When we are also talking about completeness, we are talking about it being able to meet the needs in the current context. That when I get this information, it is going to be complete for this need that I have or for this problem that I need to address. It should also not be biased. So it needs to be unbiased, and it means that it needs to be impartial and free from any bias. And that is what we mean by integrity. So you see, all these quality aspects are addressing three things, and then it should not need any further explanation. If I get this information, I should not be seeking for clarification. So these quality aspects, what they are teaching us is that this information or this information quality is addressing the following aspects. Number one is what we call confidentiality. Sorry. Confidentiality, integrity, and availability. So when you are looking at those quality factors we have gone through, you will notice that they are addressing these three arms of information security. Information system should be confidential, meaning that the information within that system is only accessible to those who are allowed to access it. When you say this matter is confidential, it doesn't need to be exposed out there. When we talk about integrity, we are talking about information that is free from any bias, meaning that you can track that information. Availability, you can access that information whenever you need it. So those are the three aspects of information. We also have several qualities here, whereby it should be of uniform collection, analysis, and content, meaning that it is comparable. Also, it is reproducible, meaning that you can use documented methods and get some new information or get some consistent result out of the information that you have collected. So those are the quality attributes of information. So why do we need information systems? We also looked at this in brief last week, and here are the same reasons we looked at. First of all is the increased impact of information processing, organizational decision making, dependency of the services sector like banking, financial, health. Let us look at the banking and financial industries. And when I talk of the financial industry, I'm trying to look at the money lending services. Nowadays, you are able to borrow from an app. And this app, you have never gone to their office to give up any of your data. They do not know you, but the moment you key in your information and you give your Safaricom number, they are able to do some analysis out of the data they are collecting from your mobile phone, maybe the amounts you normally get in your Safaricom line and how you transact. And out of that, they are able to give you some credit loan, even without going to meet with them. So that is a revolution that has been brought because of information systems. They are able to collect data like that. Think of entertainment industry. Nowadays, people are downloading apps to listen to music, and out of the music that you normally listen, they will always be sending you updates of new similar music. Think of even what you normally browse, the searches you normally do. So Google will always be bringing you things similar to what you were browsing yesterday, because they already get the idea of what you normally research about, education and others. All of those are areas where dependency to information systems has become very high. Then a changing employment scene, whereby, like we said, people are moving from production, that is manufacturing and production, towards service and knowledge industries. So the dependability towards information systems increases. So look at those needs again. in a nutshell, you need information systems to survive in the modern world, which is very competitive. Very competitive. You also need information to create strong information systems and to keep these systems up to date. Out of that, there have been implications whereby we have had a huge shift towards increasing automated business processes and communication. Like we have just seen, automated processes like previously, people when they were applying for loans, they had to go to their village chief to get authorization. If it was a teacher, you go to TSC and all of those pre-authorizations. Nowadays, you don't need such. Just your mobile phone and your M-Pesa line. That is it. You're able to get your loan as quickly as possible. And how best you service it, you become a regular customer, your loan limit increases, and all of that continues. So that is one of the impact whereby we are talking about we are shifting from these manual processes towards automated business processes and communications. You interact with people you have never met, and you do business with people you have not seen, or you're not in the same location, but business goes on as usual. All of that is being provided by the capabilities of information processing so that you can achieve greater efficiency in accounting and other business processes. So business information systems have been able to accomplish these functionalities like collection and storage of data, transformation of this data into information that is useful for business decision making. They have also been able to provide controls to safeguard the data. They have also been able to automate and streamline reporting. And so when we are talking about uses of information by businesses, then we are looking at the management function, whereby now we can use these information systems and the information they are producing to plan. So when we are talking about planning, we are looking at trying to get a record of the business resources we have, the assets we have, the liabilities, the plants, the machineries, properties, suppliers, customers, competitors, market and market dynamics. All of these things, even government policies and emerging technologies, we can plan about them just by use of information systems and the information that they are producing. We can also record business processes using information systems. Like when you go to the supermarket, people are just recording sales by use of the barcode reader when you are passing the items at the counter and you're able to sell or to buy the items that you need. Controlling is another function, management function, that can be performed using information systems, which now helps in terms of filtering information so that the filtered information or the filtered data can be presented to the middle and top level management. Like we were saying, at the operational level or at the transaction level, information is always detailed. The data which has been collected has details, like in the supermarket, it has details of the item you have bought, the size of that item, the amount of that item, and so on and so on. But when it comes to the middle level management, these people are interested in seeing maybe what was the sales volume, what was the profit, what was the loss, and something like that. By the time you get to the top level management, these people at the top level of the organization are interested in knowing whether the business branch is doing okay or it is not doing okay. So they are getting a graphical representation of the performance of that branch of the organization. So that is an activity which has been become effective and is being done efficiently by use of information systems. Also measuring, you can measure business performance by using metrics which can be applied on either sales data, cost of manufacturing, or the profit earned, so that when you analyze that data, you are able to measure whether you're performing well or poorly, and you can be able to make a decision out of that. Then we also have another one, which is decision making. So all of these are management functions which can be executed by use of information systems, and that is why it has become very easy for computerized system to be able to make decisions on behalf of an organization, like these money lending apps. Sometimes they are just being manipulated or they have been configured by human beings, but when you feed your data, that system can be able to make analysis and make a decision on behalf of the organization whether to give you a loan, and also if it is giving you that loan, of how much. So this is an activity which has been easily performed by information systems. So out of that multidimensional information system, then we can be saying that information systems have been created out of the following foundations. One is operations research and management science. That is one of the foundations of information systems. We're also talking about the theory of organizational behavior. We're also talking about computer science because of creating the computers themselves. And this is from the data and file structures. So data structures, file structures, also data theory design and implementation. We're also talking about computer networking, because without the networked systems, then connectivity becomes a problem. Then expert systems and artificial intelligence is becoming of great importance, whereby it is the computers which is doing everything on behalf of human beings. So those are the foundations we are getting out of this system. So when we are looking at information systems, there are factors which come out of information processing. And these factors are helping us to speed up business events and achieve greater efficiency, like direct and immediate linkage to the system. When you download an app on your mobile phone, you are able to connect directly, like we were talking of social media as well. You are able to connect to the business just through a social media page. The same, you download an app and you're able to connect. Faster communication and order, that is another impact. Electronic transfer of money through M-Pesa, M-Shwari, bank to M-Pesa, all of those. Electronically solicited pricing, whereby you are able to determine which is the best price. When you go to Google and maybe you Google maybe price of maybe Nokia or Samsung, this and that, you're able to see different sellers are selling at these prices, and you're able to compare and you're able to make a decision just from that information system. So that is why it becomes very important. So decision making takes 4 types of paths. When managers are trying to make decisions, when they are using information systems, one is through understanding the need for the decision or the opportunity. So the information system will be able to create an understanding. Why do you need to make this decision? Because of the analytics which have been provided to you. Number 2 is preparing alternative courses of action. So these information systems will always propose to you, this is the decision you can make, or this other one based on this, or this other one based on that. For example, kama umeshindwa na kulipa hizo app and you want to maybe extend the loan period, they will give you an option. For 1 week, this is the impact, you will be charged this much. For 1 month, this is the impact, you will be charged that much. So you'll be able to make a decision out of those alternative courses of action which have been provided to you. Then it can also help you to evaluate, because when you are doing an evaluation, you are trying to see what are the benefits, what are the challenges of each of these course of actions, and then deciding which is the right path of making that decision. So those are the 4 channels which you can use. So I would like us to briefly look at the major enterprise applications. Just an introduction. When we are looking at enterprise applications, here we are trying to see different industries or different systems are used in an organization in different ways. If you go to the banking industry, they will have their own types of information systems. You go to the health industry, you will find different types of information systems. You go to maybe the education industry, you'll find that there are also different types of information systems which are used there. So different systems are used in different application areas. That is why we are looking at these major enterprise applications, because when you go to different enterprises or industries, you will find that different systems are in use. So, and each of those will require different types of system support. Like if it is e-commerce, it requires some different types of support. Enterprise communication and collaboration, maybe in the education industry, is also different. Collaboration is different. Web-enabled business is different. So these applications keep on varying depending on where they are being used. So some of the services provided by an enterprise application will include things like online shopping, billing and payment, interactive product catalog, content management, customer relationship management, manufacturing, IT service management, enterprise resource management, human resource management, business intelligence management, business collaboration and security, and then farm automation. So these are just basic or a few of the different applications which you will normally come across when you go to different applications. Now, the way they have been listed, these are the ones which can cut across. If you're talking about customer management, customer relationship management, it will cut across because all of these industries are serving a particular customer somewhere. So they will need to have a customer relationship management system, for example. If it is research they are doing, or they want to maybe perform some intelligence, they will need business intelligence management. They will need to secure their systems. They will need to manage their human resource. They will need to manage their IT services and their content, which they are offering out there. And maybe if they are selling, whether it is a service or a product, then they will need to manage their payment processing and all of that. So some of the commonly used enterprise applications we come across is like the MIS, Management Information System. We also have the Enterprise Resource Planning, what we are calling the ERP. We also have Customer Relationship Management, the CRM, the Customer Support Decision Support System, the DSS, Knowledge Management System, that is KMS, Content Management System, that is CMS, Executive Support Systems, ESS, Business Intelligence Systems, Enterprise Application Integration, Business Continuity Planning, and Supply Chain Management Systems. So, let us begin with a management information system. This is the title of our course. We need to know what is it all about, because it is like the basis of all these other systems we are trying to list there. So a management information system will be an implementation. Basically, it is an implementation of the organizational systems and procedures. When we are talking about systems here, like we had started by defining a system here is like, what are the activities and how have they been organized? So a system is, in the normal English dictionary definition, is an orderly way of doing things. So when we are talking about organizational systems, it's all about how are the activities organized. That is what we mean by organizational systems. And procedures are like, how are we supposed to carry out these activities? If it is in a shop, how do we buy stock? How do we stock it in the shop? And how do we sell it to the customer? So those are the procedures. So to a programmer who normally creates this system, it is nothing but file structures and file processing. So to you, a manager, it is an implementation of the organizational systems and procedures. To a programmer, who is the system developer, it is nothing but file structures and file processing. But then let us go into the details and try to understand it. Some of the three components which make up an information system, they will include system, whereby we are talking about the integration and holistic view of the activities which are in that organization. Then information, it is standing for the processed data, because it is out of these activities taking place in the organization that we are collecting data. For example, if you are selling an item, somebody will come to the shop or to the supermarket. They pick several items, they come to the counter. So the person who is at the counter is the one collecting the data. And this is how they are doing it. They will pick the item, pass it before the barcode reader, and they will collect information regarding that item number, the item size, the item name, and the price of that item. So in the database, they will reduce the number of those items by that item, and they will increase the revenue by the cost of that item. So that is how they are collecting the data. Now that data, when it is fed into the information, at the end of the day, it will be processed as sales. So at the end of the day, somebody will be seeking information about what were the sales per day. So that simple item that was sold, it is now processed to become sales per day. And then management is the ultimate user, the decision maker. Management refers to the decision maker who is supposed to be given that information once it has been processed, and they can be able to make a decision based on it. Maybe they want to know if all the bread was sold so that they can order for more. They need to know how much the sales have been so that they can be able to take money to the bank. They need to know whether they are making a profit or a loss and all of that. So a management information system can be analyzed as follows. Number one, it is the management part, which covers the planning, control, and administration of the operations of a concern or a business. So the top management will be handling the planning, the middle management will concentrate on controlling, because the top management, we are talking of the CEO, the COO, the CFO. They will plan. This year, we want to expand by 2 branches. This year, we want to spend 1 million. So once they have planned like that and they have put the resources out there, it is the work of the middle level management, like the middle level manager, the departmental managers who are involved in marketing, in implementation. It is their work now to go ahead and source for the right location so that they can set up the branch. So they are controlling the resources and the plans that they have been given by the top level manager. And then it is the lower manager who are concerned with the actual administration or implementation of those plans. Those are the people who will go down to the ground to really maybe set up the place, stock it, and it becomes a branch. So that is what is meant by management when it comes to the definition of a management information system. Then information refers to the processed data that will help the managers to plan, to control, and to perform these operations. So data refers to all these facts which arise out of the operations of the business, and data is normally processed by recording, being summarized and compared, and finally is presented to the management so that they can be able to make a decision in the form of an MIS report. Then a system is now the data, or a system is the component that will be used for capturing the data. So that is inputting, that is what we are referring to, capturing, then processing or manipulating or transforming the data. So when you are talking about processing, We're also talking about manipulating or transforming data. So all of these mean one and the same thing when we are talking about processing or manipulating or processing the data. And then there is output, which is now the converted data or data that has been processed, and then giving feedback so that you can know whether you're performing well or badly, and you can control. So that is what is meant by system when we are talking about a management information system. So that is why we call it a planned system of collecting, storing, and disseminating data in the form of information needed to carry out the functions of management, the one we have just described there up. So what are the goals of an MIS? When we are having an MIS in place, what do you want to achieve? An MIS will help us to capture data. When you are capturing data, you are just trying to feed in data into the system so that it can be processed for decision making. Then once you have captured the data, another objective is to process that data. And when you are processing, you are processing it either by sorting, listing, categorizing, whatever kind of manipulation you're doing, you're performing it there so that it can be used for planning, organizing, coordinating, directing, and controlling the functions of strategic, tactical, and operational levels of the organization. So when we are looking at processing data, making calculations, sorting data, classifying, summarizing, those are the activities we are talking about when we are talking about processing data. Another objective of an MIS is to store this data, also to retrieve the data, and also to propagate it. That is, sharing it among users so that they can be able to make decisions. So when you want to know whether you are dealing with an MIS, what are the characteristics that you usually look out for? One, it is based on a long-term plan. It provides a holistic view of the dynamics and the structure of the organization. It works as a complete and a comprehensive unit, meaning that it has interconnected all the other subsystems within an organization. So when you find a system which is used for accounting in the finance department, that is not an MIS because it has not combined all the functions or the other subsystems in the organization. Also, it has the top-down approach, whereby it begins with the decision makers and then it cascades the information downward to the implementation level. It is also based on a need of strategic, operational, or tactical information of managers in an organization. So any information system that doesn't have, it is not serving the need of either of these levels in an organization, then it is not a complete information system. And it also takes care of exceptional situations, meaning that it can produce what we call ad hoc reports. There are those periodical and timed reports, but it should also be able to generate ad hoc or those reports which are as per the need. It is also used to make forecasts and estimates. It should be able to give a picture of the future based on the past information that has been collected in the system. It can also provide a linkage between all the subsystems within the organization, meaning that there is communication and sharing of data among systems within the organization. Then it has a flow of information through the subsystems that I have mentioned. And lastly, it always is integrated and a complete system, meaning that you do not need any other system to help you either to capture information, process the information, or generate reports. And then a central database is the backbone of a well-built MIS. So those are the characteristics. When we are looking at computerized management information systems, we are saying that it has what we call accuracy, high speed, and it can be used in areas like operation research, simulations, and all of that. It can be able to collect, organize, manipulate large sets of data so that you can be able to get meaning out of them with ease and with speed. It also provides real-time information on events that are ongoing, and it also supports various output formats, as well as providing an organized and relevant information for all levels of the organization, like we have described. If it is at the operational level, it needs to provide detailed information. If it is at the tactical level, summarized reports. At the strategic level, the graphical representation of those reports. So that is how you can be able to tell this is a computerized management information system. So when we are looking at the scope of a management information system, it combines the computer science, operational research, behavioral science, management, accounting, so that you can have a complete MIS. So thank you for your time, and let me stop there